You're listening to the Fan Club podcast, where two polar opposites experience each other's fandoms for the very first time. Hey guys, welcome to the first episode of the Fan Club podcast. My name is Sarah.
This is Matthew.
And we are a married couple, and we are both geeks, just of different things. And so we wanted to share our fandoms with each other. And the first up is going to be Marvel, because I've never seen a Marvel movie.
We're going to do Marvel first, and since it's also Doctor Strange just came out, Thor: Love is coming out shortly, and with the latest Marvel movies and TV shows, we're doing this one first.
There is quite a lot of Marvel movies, if you're probably aware, so this will take us quite a while. We are starting off with we went back and forth on whether or not to do this in chronological order or in timeline order. And we ultimately decided on chronological in order of release date made the most sense, which means first up is Iron Man, which we watched last night.
Yeah.
My relationship to Marvel, so like I said, when I say I've never seen a Marvel movie, I have seen Avengers once, the first Avengers movie, and the first Captain America movie, but it's been a very long time. And I think I might have been in the room when Thor Ragnarok was playing, but I was not paying attention. We're gonna start off with Iron Man. Matthew, you have a lot of experience with Marvel. Why don't you talk a little bit about your relationship to Marvel as a whole?
Yeah, okay. So I've always collected Marvel comics ever since I was little. I have most of the first 50 issues of Spider-Man, along with a couple of the old school Avengers, a couple of the old school Iron Mans, Captain America, Hulk, Thor.
There are a couple of these that he is maybe not as well versed in.
Yeah.
But either way, you know them a lot better than I do, is really the point.
It was directed in 2008, released in 2008.
By Jon Favreau.
Yes. At the time, it was made by
Paramount, right?
Paramount. Yes, it was made by it was made by Paramount. The first couple Marvel movies were not made by Disney. So that's why Iron Man 1 was a lot more serious and not so much comical as some of the later Marvel movies, but at the time it was a one-off.
This is actually an interesting, maybe lead into our trailer discussion, because we watched the trailer before we watched the movie to kind of give me a little bit of a general understanding of what I was going to be watching. And I was kind of, because, I mean, it's hard to be a citizen of, the world with a social media account without absorbing some form of Marvel content. And so I have seen the thousands of memes that are out there that I just kind of assumed that Marvel was much more comical.
It does have those moments. There are some very funny Marvel moments.
Well, and there's funny moments within this movie in and of itself.
Yes, there are.
But I was a little taken aback at initially how serious in tone this movie was in comparison to what I was originally thinking it was going to be. I mean, we literally deal with war torture. So going into it, I was kind of taken a little bit aback about how dark it seemed. The actual movie, to me personally, I think it had a really good balance of the dark versus the light.
Or not light per se.
There were a fair amount of jokes. Tony Stark as a character is pretty sarcastic, is pretty but he delivers things very deadpan, so it doesn't.
So one other interesting thing that not a lot of people know, John wanted Robert Downey Jr. to play Iron Man originally because he felt like the actor's past was right for the part. All of Robert Downey Jr.
Wasn't this one of, if not the comeback film for Robert Downey Jr.?
Yes. For a while, he wasn't doing a whole lot. Tony Stark's life, it's completely in the public eye in the Marvel universe. Even in the comics, everyone knows what he does. His mistakes, his successes, it's all in the public's eye. Same with Robert Downey Jr.'s.
Originally, they were considering Tom Cruise
Yes.
and
Tom Cruise and Nicolas Cage, which
um
are both really odd
well, I mean, like
choices, in
Nicholas
my opinion.
Nicolas Cage went on to do Ghost Rider, right?
Yes.
If it were, I think if it was either of those, it would have been a much more action heavy movie. I don't think a lot of the jokes would have landed, just because Robert Downey Jr. has, like I said, such a deadpan, sarcastic tone.
Yes.
I don't think it would have. I don't think it. I mean, obviously, it wouldn't have been the same movie, but it would not have been the same. So, first thing I noticed in the intro scene is one of the best songs was Back in Black by AC/DC, and they used it in the trailer too, but I thought it was a fantastic use of the song and just a great, like, okay, we're in this. I thought it was fantastic. What I didn't think was fantastic was the blatant misogyny, but I won't get into that much. But it's also 2008, so like, but there's a lot of that throughout this movie. But I think it also just paints the picture of who Tony Stark is. It's both a product of the time and a product of the character. So I'm willing to excuse it a little bit. MySpace was a pretty dead at reference in 2008, wasn't it? Like, there's literally a point in which, like, he says, like, I hope this picture doesn't end up on your MySpace page.
Yeah, MySpace was still popular at that time.
I mean,
That's
we were in middle school in 2008, so like, I think I got a MySpace like on the tail end of it. Like,
yeah, same here.
um,
R.I.P. MySpace.
and then they have this whole montage. From a filmmaking perspective, I felt like this montage was like very heavy exposition and felt a little. I get why they did it, but it felt a little clunky from like it's just trying to paint the picture of like who we're talking about, all the players. I
Yeah,
do. I love the name Obadiah. It's a great name, but
that's just a villain's name. Like,
it
you
really
can't say
is.
Obadiah without, like, oh, he's not, that person's not a good person.
You don't like. Well, and I
And
was
I'm sorry to anyone that's named Obadiah that may be listening to this. I apologize. You just have a very villainous name.
Well, and I feel like that's the nature of the no tea no shade, those old school biblical names. We
Mm,
both have biblical names, so we have no room to talk. But
that is true.
I was like, interesting choice. I know it's like Obadiah is actual, he's
Yeah.
in the comics, correct? He's the villain in the comics. They didn't just like come up
Kind
with that.
of. He's not a major villain, but he is one of Iron Man's villains. He's actually Warmonger in the comics.
Or is it Ironmonger?
Ironmonger. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I read
Ironmonger.
that a couple
I
of times.
don't remember. He may be in issues that I just don't have because I have some of the old school Iron Mans from when he was first thought up during when he was a hero during the Vietnam War.
I will say, in this montage, in the first couple of little bits of dialogue that Obadiah gets, I clocked him as a villain almost
Mm-hmm.
immediately. And like, that's nothing against Jeff Bridges. I think he's great, but I don't
Jeff
know.
Bridges is absolutely hilarious if he's playing a comedy role, like in kind of like in Tron Legacy, even in the original Tron and Big Lebowski. He's funny.
I'll take your word for it. I haven't seen it. Basically, the premise of all of this is I watch nothing. Oh.
So, one other interesting fact about the movie, the script was not finished when the filming began. So,
Oh yeah, yeah.
a lot of the scenes
A lot of dialogue is
ad libbed.
improvised. Yeah.
Yeah. Um, when the script was not completely finished when filming began, since the filmmakers were more focused on story and action, so dialogue was mostly ad lib throughout filming. The director John acknowledged that this made the film feel more natural instead of it just being.
I imagine they had the bones of the scenes kind of
Yeah,
laid
they had
out.
the bones, but a lot of the individual dialogue was all improvised. But Gwyneth Paltrow had a hard time matching his.
Yeah. Which we can get into this later. These two have zero chemistry, in my personal opinion. I
Just wait
mean,
till later.
yeah, we'll get into that. Speaking of chemistry, he has some palpable tension with what's her face,
Oh,
the reporter chick.
yeah, they have good chemistry, but I don't think she's in any other.
No, I just really enjoyed their little back and forth. She compares him to, she calls him, quote, the Da Vinci of our time. The real I can't talk. Leonardo da Vinci was a military engineer in addition to being an artist and an inventor.
Yes.
Among Da Vinci's weapon designs were a gigantic crossbow, multi-barreled cannons, and an armored vehicle powered by hand cranks.
Yes.
Did you know that?
Yes, I actually, when I was in high school, metal shop of high school, I tried to create some of his machines. During high school, I
Interesting.
kind of got obsessed with Leonardo da Vinci.
I mean, I remember vaguely. So, okay, I'm fully aware that this movie is so not historically accurate in any way, shape, or form. But I was, as a child, obsessed with the movie Ever After with Drew Barrymore, Leonardo DiCaprio. Leonardo, that movie, which is, we don't need to get into it. This is not an Ever After podcast.
But yeah, Leonardo da Vinci made some amazing designed some amazing
I thought that was an interesting, an interesting reference, because he obviously, Tony Stark is a weapons engineer.
I mean, he is the modern, in the Marvel universe, essentially. He is the modern day Leonardo da Vinci. He has made he designs them and then has other people make them, kind of like Leonardo da Vinci. He's one of the smartest people.
See, that thought process would have never crossed my mind unless I read that fact.
Because I think Tony Stark has an IQ of 186.
There's this whole scene with Pepper Potts and Tony Stark, and this is where we'll get into, there is zero chemistry between these two.
Yeah.
They're just establishing Pepper Potts' character. I don't know if this is a hot take. And I said this to Matthew last night and whatever. But like I said, she is so uninteresting. Not even just Gwyneth Paltrow in general. And say what you want about Gwyneth Paltrow, but the lady's freaking weird. But like, I think Pepper Potts as a whole is just wholly uninteresting.
Yeah.
She's very much a prop in a way, that she doesn't really do anything to her own accord, which kind of irks me, because I feel like they could do a lot with a female sidekick, but like she has no agency is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
And that just kind of, and she's just so bland. And they're like, they have this like back and forth. I swear he has more chemistry with his damn robot than he does with her. And
I'm sorry, but his robot is the Disney version of the animals.
It reminds me of, have you seen How to Train Your Dragon?
Yes.
It reminds me of his of Hiccup and Toothless a little bit.
I wouldn't say I would say closer to like the chameleon from Tangled.
Yeah, that's a better
because you get a lot of sarcastic,
or even like the cricket in Mulan.
I wouldn't know,
like the way that Mushu talks to the cricket.
Yeah, true.
Like I feel like it's similar in that vibe.
When you say cricket, I was thinking Jiminy Cricket.
No, the cricket in Mulan.
Yeah, I know. I realized it after the fact.
So then I had this thought earlier today, and Matthew completely shot me down. But when he gets captured by the warlords, was his name Raza?
Yeah, Raza.
I was like, why don't they just kill him? And still, because they're still getting their stuff from Obadiah. So why don't they just kill Tony Stark?
My opinion is that...
Sorry, I feel like we just like jumped ahead, but I don't really have any notes between the...
No, it's not that far. It's still close to the beginning of the movie. If it came out that Obadiah was selling them the weapons, he would have been branded as the traitor. He would have been branded as the warlord, as the warmonger, things like that. So if he had Iron Man or Tony Stark do it, and it gets captured that Tony Stark is playing both sides of the war, he would go down as the warmonger, things like that, to protect Obadiah, because Obadiah would have a scapegoat. Because why damage your own name when you could damage someone else's while protecting your own?
Okay, fair enough. I mean, I made that observation
Yeah.
later after like
Which your theory
just
is not
I just
bad.
I
It's
just
not.
I just needed like a little more time to like process the movie, you know, and it just like
Yeah.
that just occurred to me today. Kind of going back to the the thing that I said at the beginning, I totally thought that it was going to be like a superhero themed romp and it was going to be fun and lighthearted, and it's like straight up like prisoners of war.
Yeah.
Like I was fully not thinking they were going to go there. I recognize that the films probably get more, and there's more comical as a whole films later down the line. I know that. So when he first made the, what do they call it? The Mark 1, the
Yeah, Mark
first
One, which is the one that all of his suits are named Mark and then a number.
yeah.
So in this one, we see Mark 1 through 3. Mark
Okay.
1 is the old school one that he
So
made in the
that's
cave.
the one that he made in the cave, the Mark 1,
Yeah,
gave me serious Iron Giant vibes. Do you remember that movie?
vaguely. I know that.
You know it's voiced by Vin Diesel.
Yes,
Yeah, you told me that last night, and I
yes.
was. But Iron Giant, I don't really remember. I remember there being a little boy.
I don't remember a lot from Iron Giant. It's
I don't
probably
remember
been well
like
over a decade and a half.
I remember it being in that same era as Brave Little Toaster.
I've never seen Brave Little Toaster.
Oh my god, that movie is iconic. But anyway, I got some serious Iron Giant vibes. It
Yeah,
also definitely, for the more rudimentary first iterations of the suit, it it, it definitely looks more
yeah,
similar to the comics than, or at least the old school Iron Man, than the suit that we know in Avengers and stuff like that. I really like the tension in the scene where they're planning the
yeah.
escape and then like executing the escape.
Mm-hmm.
Um I really liked the way that they built that tension. Obviously, he's in like a trillion other movies, so like I knew that he was gonna make it out. I did not, however, know that Yinsen was gonna die, and that
Yeah,
when he first came on screen, I was like, "Who is that? Who is this
yeah,
random dude?" Um, I love that when he is met with a barrage of bullets, he goes, "My turn," and then flame throws
mm-hmm.
them. Except the fire looks super fake. And then when he's lost in the desert, my note is literally word for word. My note is, my worst nightmare is being lost in the desert. That is my absolute hell. And then I was shocked that that was just the first third of the movie. I was kind of like, that felt like an entire movie in and of itself. In hindsight, it really didn't, but like when you're in it, it felt a lot longer than it really is, and it was really good at keeping the tension, I feel like. And so I was a little shocked that I felt like almost I was like, he got rescued this early in the movie.
Yeah,
I felt like it was, they didn't do a great job of conveying just how much time had passed, because he has some line where he's like, I've been in captivity for 3 months,
yeah.
and I don't think that was clear.
What do you mean not clear?
Like, there was no definitive passage of time.
Do
There
you
was
really think
no.
they would be able to build a suit of armor
No, I'm just saying,
in a matter of days?
I'm not saying it was a matter of days. I just, there was no way to know how long it was, is my point. Oh, it has been 3 months? Okay. I do find the fact that, so there's a line, it seems like a throwaway line, but he says like, all I want is a cheeseburger.
In an interview with Britain's Empire magazine, RDJ thanked Burger King for helping him get straight edge in 2003 with a car full of drugs. He had a burger that was so disgusting it made him rethink his life. He dumped the drugs in the ocean, and he repeats this on an impromptu sit-down session with the press upon returning from captivity. Burger King has also promoted the film with toys based on this movie as well as the sequel. So he
I
actually thanks Burger King for getting him clean.
Agent Coulson shows up, which I don't know how. I really don't. I guess it must be another one of those, like, being on Twitter or whatever, but like I immediately recognize not only just the name but the actor himself.
So
I
originally, he
recognize
was only supposed to have a small role, but as filming went on, his chemistry with other cast members became so apparent they added more and more scenes to the Marvel movies with him in it because he got along with all of the actors so well. The producers wanted him to have more scenes.
I've heard of Agents of Shield. We're undecided on whether or not we're gonna cover it.
If
Um,
we do, it would probably just be the parts that tie in to a couple of the other
like
movies.
we might not we if we cover it, we might not cover every single episode. We might watch it together, but
Yeah.
just cover it an overarching.
Yeah, we may just cover the tie-ins to
And if that's something you
the
guys feel
future events of MCU.
if that's something you guys feel strongly about, let us know.
Yeah.
We would probably do it because we want to do other fandoms eventually.
Yeah. And if we do all of the movies or if we do all of the TV shows like Agents of Shield, the Defender series, if we do them all, it will take years to get through just because Agents of Shield has like 6 or 7 seasons.
And covering a TV show is very different than covering a movie.
Yeah.
So if that's something you guys feel strongly about, let us know. I really loved that he has this change of heart that he wants to help people, and he went through so much trauma. I mean, being a
Like he
prisoner.
literally saw his own creations hurting.
Yeah. And I love that he wants to use his skills for good.
Mhm.
And I think that that's a really interesting.
One other interesting fact about not having an actual finalized script, Jeff Bridges would say he was very uncomfortable not having a script or rehearsals since he normally was very prepared for all of his other shows and movies that he does. He knows his lines word for word. Realizing it, he he started making it sound like it was a $200 million student film, which took pressure off of himself, and he was able to make it fun to be in Iron Man because he acted like it was a student film instead of a multi-million-dollar
That
film.
must be difficult. Like, and honestly, it's kind of a testament to the actors that they were able to improvise as much as they were. Also, I observed that he has a hole cut out of most of his shirts, which
Yeah,
I found a little bit strange because, like, really, I feel like most people would just like put their normal clothes over it.
I mean he does later.
Like he wears his suit over it.
Yeah,
But
no,
like,
it's
or
just
no, I mean like a
when
suit and tie suit, not
yeah.
like the Iron Man suit.
No, I know what you mean. No, when he's like working on his stuff, he usually wears like a white shirt, so it looks like there's a hole, but it's just see through.
But no, but later there's a scene where I think it's the scene where like Obadiah's in the apartment or whatever, and he's wearing Tony Stark is wearing like a light blue t-shirt, and it looks like there's like a hole cut out for the arc
But
reactor.
I mean, the arc reactor is very bright, also.
I mean, it very well could be that it's just shining through the shirt, and this is so
Yeah,
not an important detail.
yeah.
I thought it was funny that I was like, did he just like cut a hole?
So one other interesting thing, Paul Bettany, who is Jarvis, didn't even know what the movie was even about.
So
All of his lines he recorded were only 2 hours.
he
Yeah.
said that making this film was like quote like a robbery. And
He did it because he did it as a favor to John because they also did another movie together. They did Wimbledon in 2004.
Matthew kept asking me if I recognized the voice, and it sounded super familiar, and not in a I've heard clips of Iron Man before kind of way. And then I figured out the giant spoiler on my own because it clicked because I've seen promotional material for WandaVision.
Yeah. I mean, we watched the first 2 episodes a long
I
time.
was not paying attention. I love the progress of the suit developing and like the him deciding on what color it's gonna be and like
Just
the
you wait.
I
Just you wait.
I loved those sequences of like there's a shot of him like there's shots of him trying to learn how to fly and then he like slams himself into the wall, which that had to hurt. Like I love that he is like trying to figure out the design of it. I do like that there's I'm pretty sure there's a couple of references to like the Iron Man comics in there.
There's some, but his most popular suit is his Mark III.
Yeah, and I love the scene of him like when he figured out how to fly, when he's like flying around. And I was very confused initially when it started freezing up because I initially interpreted that as like somebody messing with his system. I realized it was him icing it out, like him icing over,
But
and then he
he
ended up
was
ultimately
at
fixing
a
that.
high altitude also.
Sure.
Airplanes at altitude ice over.
Yeah. I like how he improved that, and then that ended up being Obadiah's downfall later.
To an extent.
Can I mention my really dumb observation?
What? Which one?
The Glee one. So at the charity ball, the the room that they're in, it was that exact room was used in season 4 of Glee. Which if you don't know anything about me, which you don't, because this is the first episode of the podcast, you know nothing about me. I grew up watching Glee. I know it's a bad show. I fully recognize that. But that is used as a set for when Rachel goes to college. I just thought it was really funny because it's an incredibly recognizable room when you know what you're looking for. They're really, really, really trying to make me care about the relationship between Tony and Pepper, and I just don't.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
I thought that the conversation they had on the balcony was really sweet, but like, it didn't feel like genuine to me. I just don't think she's very good.
Yeah.
I originally this part was offered to Rachel McAdams, of The Notebook and Mean Girls fame.
Which I'm glad she didn't take it.
I thought she would have added a little more personality.
But she's still in the MCU.
This is true, isn't she in Doctor Strange?
Yes, she is in Doctor Strange, and so I'm kind of glad that she didn't get to be Pepper Potts, because we actually get her, in my opinion, as a much better character.
I totally called it that Obadiah was the villain. He just gives me villain energy. I mean, and that name as well. Like, just you don't name your character Obadiah and make him a good guy.
Yeah. Oh, an interesting thing about earlier in the film, I totally forgot to bring this up. So the vehicle that Robert Downey Jr. is working on before they go to the airplane, the Roadster that Tony Stark is working on, is owned by the director.
Yeah. I do really like the little device that he uses to paralyze. Other characters could probably utilize that in the future if they got their hands on it. So I also made an observation when he goes to, is it Golmira, the town that he goes to like save? When he goes over there, does he fly over an entire ocean?
Yes.
How long does that take? Does it take fuel? Does he have to stop?
No, it's powered by the arc reactor. All the suits are powered by the arc reactor.
Sure, but like he literally flies to the Middle East.
I mean, he left at night.
That's not what I'm talking. I'm just talking like, okay, that would take like a 9-hour flight from where we live.
I mean, he can also travel at subsonic speeds.
Does he have to stop to like refuel or sleep or eat?
There's no fuel.
Recharge?
His suit is powered by the arc reactor. As how an arc reactor works, it takes its own power from itself. It creates plasma which is how he's able to fire his repulsors also.
I love the scene where Tony is going back and forth with Rhodey and about with the military fighter jets.
Yeah.
Which, fun fact about that scene and a later scene is that Rhodey's ringtone is the theme song from the 1960 Iron Man cartoon.
You also hear it in a few other places. You hear it in the casino at the beginning of the movie, and in Tony Stark's bedroom when when the reporter chick is waking up.
But I really loved the back and forth and the kind of realization that this is not just like a random small plane, it's a person. Totally called this plot twist. I really liked this villain monologue. I'm not a big action movie person. I kind of find them kind of hard to watch sometimes. I did really like that Obadiah used this technology to make his own suit. And I didn't really love, again, that Pepper has no agency, is basically just told what to do. Didn't love that.
Yeah.
But in a way, she kind of saved the day, kind of. But what's interesting about that is when the scene where Pepper goes to Obadiah's office to do the ghost drive, one of the files on Obadiah's computer is called Lebowski, which is a reference to Jeff Bridges being in The Big Lebowski, which I thought was really funny.
Gwyneth Paltrow based her performances on the 1940s heroines who she claimed were sexy, witty, and innocent all at once. I didn't get witty or sexy.
I got none of that from her.
I could get innocent.
I got none witty, intelligent. I got none of that from her performance.
Yeah.
I don't know where she got any of that.
Yeah, I don't really know either.
I don't think Gwyneth Paltrow is a great actress. I don't think she's horrible. I just don't think that this role does anything for her.
Universal sold the rights to 20th Century Fox, which is funny now because they're owned by Disney.
All in all, that's really all the notes that I have going through the movie itself. All in all, I thought it was a good movie. It was a decent movie. As a whole, I really liked it. Unless I'm severely disappointed by the other Marvel movies, I on my top.
No, but this one was
it's a good start.
Yeah.
It's a good start. I feel like from what I've heard from other people about the other films, I feel like I'm probably going to lean towards the other ones more. But as a whole, I thought that there were some glaring issues. Namely Gwyneth Paltrow, I thought was a glaring issue with this movie. So yeah, we're gonna go through some fun facts. I personally find film fun facts really interesting and behind the scene fun facts.
The film was supposed to actually be made by Universal Pictures in April of 1990 originally. It took 19 or 17 years for the film to be made, which everything he touches is magic. He directed Elf, he's directed Iron Man, he did The Mandalorian. Everything he touches turns to gold.
He not only started the MCU, but also reinvigorated Star Wars.
Yes, with Mandalorian, I know this isn't a Star Wars podcast right now. We may do that eventually. But without Mandalorian, I think Star Wars would have died off. We would not have any of the new stuff without Mandalorian coming out. It would have stopped after 7, 8, and 9.
Star Wars is one of those that neither one of us have a ton of knowledge on.
Yeah.
I might cover it in the future. I'll go over this in a second, but you can let us know on social media what you feel strongly about. We have a couple of things in the pipeline that we're planning on doing. But one thing I found really interesting when I was scrolling the IMDb fun facts page. I found this really interesting. There's a scene in which Obadiah is playing the piano, and he's playing a piano piece written by 18th century composer Antonio Salieri. I'm sorry if I butchered that. He is known as a jealous rival of Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart, and was said to have murdered Mozart, although historical records have proven that, on the contrary, they had both collaborated and promoted each other's work on several occasions. And so that's a like really interesting parallel between Obadiah and Tony in terms of like a working relationship that might have had a betrayal involved. I thought that was really interesting. I'm not a classical music buff, so I never would have clocked it without this fact. The war was originally supposed to be the Vietnam War, but Jon Favreau wanted a contemporary vibe to the whole movie, so he changed it to the Gulf War. Given that it was 2008 and the Gulf War was like
Yeah, he just didn't want to put a time on it.
But the Gulf War had like just happened.
Yeah.
So it was also fresh on people's mind. We were, again, don't need to get into this, but like this was very much on people's minds at the time. There's a sound that Iron Man's heads up display makes, and it's the sound of the laser cannon firing in Space Invaders, which is that's a, I know it's a video game, but is that a arcade?
It's an old school arcade.
The line at the end at the which we didn't even really talk about the press conference scene. Apparently originally that scene was filmed as a dream sequence in order
so that there wouldn't be any spoils.
And that line is inspired by the Black Sabbath song Iron Man, which is then used in the end credits and kind of made synonymous with this movie for obvious reasons. So yeah, that was our coverage on the first Iron Man movie. All in all, I'm very excited to see. The whole reason why I never really delved into Marvel in the first place was initially I was just never interested when the movies were first coming out. And then there got to be so many that it just, at this point in time, I mean, what is it, like
29
as of May 2022. Next in the chronological release date would be Incredible Hulk. However, most of the Marvel movies are on Disney Plus. Incredible Hulk is not one of them.
Yeah.
So have we made an executive...
We may circle back to Incredible Hulk, but it also is a different actor than Mark Ruffalo. It's Edward Norton. So there will be a lot of similarities, but there will also be a lot of differences.
And we don't need to get into that right now, but we might just skip over that and circle back. But for now, we're trying to concentrate on the ones that we can readily find on streaming services.
If we find Incredible Hulk, we will do a podcast. So if it is slightly out of order, we apologize.
Yeah, that's kind of the plan going forward for the foreseeable future. It will be Marvel. And we have a couple. I don't really want to say what our plans are eventually. Eventually, will. You want to? Okay, so
sure. Why not?
I'm a mega Harry Potter fan. So Matthew has read and seen all of it, but he doesn't really. He was only a casual viewer.
Yeah.
He doesn't know all of the nitty-gritty details. I've read all of them 30 times over, probably. And so that'll probably be our next one, but it'll be a while because, like I said, there's 30 Marvel movies that we have to go over. But yeah, Harry Potter will be next, and then we're kind of going back and forth on what's going to be after that. But our plan for this is to switch off. So he's going to be the point on this. Hopefully, I have a very much more of a leader personality, so it's a little hard for me to not be in charge. But that's kind of the plan going forward, is we'll switch off leading, having more knowledge than the other. That's kind of the whole point. We're looking forward to seeing where things go and communicating with you guys. We just set up a Reddit forum today. We're on Instagram and Twitter. And our Reddit is the fan club podcast / the fan club podcast. And Twitter is fanclub_podcast, and Instagram is the fanclub_podcast. So just go, it'll all be linked in our show notes and everything. So yeah. Do you have anything to say?
Our next podcast will probably be Iron Man 2, just because that's the next one that got released.
If we're skipping over,
Yeah, if we're skipping over Hulk, it will be Iron Man 2.
Okay, so come back. I'm not gonna try. I'm gonna try not to say that we're gonna upload every week because stuff happens and life gets busy.
Yeah, we
But
eventually want to, but right now we're going to upload when we can.
trying to get our footing and trying to understand all of this stuff might take a little bit longer in the beginning. If you guys have any questions, comments, concerns, just let us know on all of our various social medias, on the Reddit page. We'd love for you guys to discuss with us over on Reddit. We'll both probably be over there in communication with you guys if that's something you'd like
Yeah,
to
you
do.
can do our Reddit, our Instagram, anything that any way you guys can.
And
You can
if there's any major updates, or you'll you'll hear over there first.
and let me know what you guys think of if we do Marvel Mondays. If you think that's cheesy or not, please let us know.
So yeah, I hope you guys have a great day.
Okay, catch you guys next
Bye.
time. Bye.